So
So yeah, so you just had to. Oh, looks like we are coming up live here right now. Welcome to everybody coming in. Appreciate you rolling through. As you're coming through, hit that like button. We got a packed conversation here. I'm here with my friend Marlon Weems, who, as many of you guys know, who are subscribers to the Journeyman, spent 30 years in Wall Street and finance, decades. He essentially has this really great view on the economy. I want to talk to him about that. And then today we've got this news of Trump trying to manufacture some fraud allegations against a Fed governor. So the timing cannot be better for this conversation. Thank you for joining me, Marlon.
hey man, thanks for having me. I'm excited to get with it.
Yeah. I mean, we got a lot to talk about. So just to get going on it, effectively today for the breaking news, for those of you who may not have heard, Fed Governor Lisa Cook has been accused by Bill Pulte, who is apparently the federal housing finance agency head, and he is cooking up some mortgage fraud allegations against her, which until we see otherwise, I'm assuming are cooked up and have no basis until we proven otherwise, because the Trump administration, I don't take them at their word, because this guy has essentially also cooked up allegations against Adam Schiff and Letitia James on mortgage fraud. So effectively, we're seeing this guy at the housing finance agency finding dirt on potential targets, and this is part of Trump's effort to take over the Fed, right? So, just what is your reaction to this news today? What has got run through your mind as someone from Wall Street and a deep finance background, man?
Okay, so you got to take a step back and understand that essentially the White House is at least from in my view, they're running a protection racket. This is, if you just go watch The Godfather, Goodfellas, just watch any of that stuff, and you will see what they're focusing on is, certainly corrupting the system. That's the first step.
Uh-huh.
The second step is bending, corporate America to their will and so on. And we've seen all that. It is not lost on me that Lisa Cook is the first Black woman ever to become a Fed governor.
Uh-huh.
Okay. It's also not lost on me that you've got, this is a cabinet position, right? Housing Finance Authority. And so what? He's just using it for opposition research. I mean, what is this?
Yeah. It's wild.
So we don't know. Assume everything they say is true. We don't know if there was something, I don't know if she's married or not. Maybe, they had two different households. We don't know.
Yeah.
We don't know anything except they said what they've said. So since when Trump has had a hell of a lot of allegations. He ain't resigning.
Yeah.
So why should this woman resign? And they're actually taking this a step further. Now, and I saw this in the Journal just before I jumped on. Now, Trump is apparently considering firing her for cause. I don't even know if he has the authority to fire a Fed governor anyway, but, that doesn't matter, right? So, that's kind of where they're going with this.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think she may be gone because look at what he's done. Remember during Doge when people were getting fired and it was illegal, but they got fired anyway. So who knows?
I think there's multiple layers to this, right? Like they either are going to fire her for cause or this is an effort, a threat. It's like if you don't step aside, we're going to pursue this investigation and make you totally drown in legal fees. And again, it's a total nonsense allegation until proven otherwise. And I think that's important for journalists, especially reporting on this and anyone talking about this. And because of the track record of lying and disinformation from this administration, I take anything they say first. I assume it's a lie until proven otherwise. And I think that's the way to approach this administration.
You really have to, because and I've seen 2 or 3 different reports, and most of them are just accepting this at face value, that she applied for 2 mortgages a week apart and said on each one of them, they were her primary residence. And then that what I've also seen is that I guess one is in Ann Arbor, Michigan. The other one is in Atlanta.
Uh-huh.
And I guess in Atlanta, it's a condo. And at some point, she put it up for rent.
Yeah.
So, okay, even if
And
those are the facts, we still don't know the circumstances. And
yeah.
that's why we have trials and so forth.
And we also see no evidence, according to Axios, that there's no accusation or evidence that she's defaulted on either loan.
No,
So regardless of what happened, she has been able to qualify enough to pay for the loans after getting them. It sounded like she got the loans, defaulted, and there was some other
no,
ramification. Again, I think that this guy, Bill Pulte, is using these these mortgage fraud allegations to target Democrats. Like we're seeing the agency head who's digging into people's information. They went for Adam Schiff, they went for Letitia James, and they're trying to cook this stuff up to target her because again, comes in the context of Trump trying to amid a slowing economy, amid an economy that's going against that showcasing his tariffs are backfiring. He's trying to bend the Fed into his whim. And as we have to note, Lisa Cook was among the Fed governors that opted to not raise interest rates, which is what he
no,
wants to happen.
lower interest rates.
No,
He
just
wants-
no,
he
and
wants-
I said she opted not to lower interest rates. Yes.
Right. So, and if we can talk about that for a minute, let me just explain why this is such a red herring.
Yeah.
Okay. So you have to back up for a second and look at the unemployment numbers that came out at the first of the month.
Mm-hmm.
What did they tell us? That jobs were weakening a little bit, and maybe corporations aren't laying off yet, but they're not hiring.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw those numbers that showed an economy that is slowing. Okay. Trump says that's not true. The economy is actually doing well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, why then do you want to lower interest rates? Because the Fed has two mandates:
Yep.
inflation, jobs. Inflation, you raise interest rates; jobs, weak economy. And so that's when you lower interest rates. So if you think the economy is great, why are you pressing the Fed to lower interest rates? You see?
Yeah. It's totally illogical because you lower interest rates in times of recession.
The economy is slowing,
Yes.
which will hurt him a year from now.
Exactly.
He knows these tariffs are getting ready to light us up, and he knows going into the midterms that is not good for him or any Republicans. He knows he's passed this bill that's getting ready to light us up. Okay.
Yeah.
All of I'm trying to keep it clean, man.
Yeah.
and so he knows all these things. That is why he is trying to get interest rates lowered. Because
Yes.
he knows this economy is getting ready to go to hell in a handbasket.
1,000%. 1,000%. And before I respond to your points, I want to note to everybody watching, thank you for joining us. Hit that like button, smash the like button a bunch of times. You can do it as many times as you want. Even if you're not paying attention, hook us up with the like smashing, because it'll elevate this live to other people as we're talking about this. And then also, if you haven't already, become a subscriber to me and Marlon Substacks. We're doing independent journalism here. I'm running a summer sale right now with a 20% discount if you want to become a paid subscriber. It really helps boost our work and helps us do this.
Indeed.
So hopefully you become a subscriber.
I'm like you, man. I have made it incredibly cheap, and it's been like that for a few months. It's going to end Labor Day weekend.
Same.
It's so cheap I can't even talk about it right now.
yeah. You don't even want to name the price. Yeah, but so everybody, we would love if you subscribe to us. But yes, on your points, it's spot on. Trump sees the writing on the wall. He just oversaw the slowest 3 months of job growth since the pandemic, and before that, since the Great Recession, right? 2010. He then tries to say, oh, the BLS numbers are fake. We have to now replace the BLS guy. And you're right. While his moves are his words are trying to showcase that he thinks the economy is actually strong, his actions are showing, like you say, that he knows it's weakening. To try to pressure the Fed to lower interest rates, he's trying to provide some kind of stimulus for what comes next year. Because 2026, people are going to start being kicked off their Medicaid. We're going to see these prices continuously hike. We're seeing, again, the trade deal threatened 30% tariffs, but then brought it down to 15. That's still significantly higher than what the average rate was before.
Average weighted tariff before Liberation Day.
It's like 2%, right?
2.5%.
Yeah.
The average tariff. Now, we're not even talking about China.
Nope.
Right? is somewhere, like you said, around 15%.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly, it's not getting as much conversation as the unemployment thing, but we got, I guess last week, producer price index. Doesn't get a whole lot of press, but what that is the price that people, the wholesale price. In other words, what producers pay for products.
Mm-hmm.
And when you dig into the core of that number, it's over 3% inflation. And
It's not
it's
good.
funny when my wife heard me talking to somebody about that, and she said, "I wonder who's going to get fired now."
Yeah, someone else. Yeah,
Because
someone
he's
else
already
for
fired.
reporting the truth.
So
Yeah. Yeah, he's really, and that's another thing. It's again this trying to strong arm. Like again, the U.S. economy, the markets, they rely on accurate data. They rely on independent Fed. They rely on these systems, these institutions to run based off reality. If you have a BLS cooking or somehow impacting or fudging the monthly job numbers, if you have a Fed that is just going to do whatever Donald says, you lower rates here, you do whatever, he's going to throw everything into chaos. He's going to cause a deep recession, if not depression, if he gets his way on all this.
you know, the problem is, even if nothing else happens, he's damaged the credibility of the BLS,
Mm-hmm.
because whoever comes in, people are going to, second guess. And it's
Yeah.
and it's not so much, of course, I don't think people understand. Economists use these numbers. Um, I use it when I hear guys like Howard Lutnick get on TV and say we need more transparency. Folks, anybody that's on here can go to the bls.gov website and download pretty much whatever you want. If you want to know if these numbers are real, you can, if you if you got that kind of time and nothing else to do, you can download reams of data
Mm-hmm.
from there. That's how our mortgages get set. That's how a bank knows what interest rate to charge you, right? Everybody, all these NGOs, all these think tanks that do white papers. When I used to do white papers for this research, capital markets research firm I worked for, we use this information.
Mm-hmm.
So if the information isn't real, we don't know anything, which kind of is the goal.
Exactly. And we've seen cautionary tales of this. We see what happened in Greece. We've seen, what happened in Turkey, Argentina. Like we've seen this in various locations, and it results in chaos, hyperinflation.
Yeah,
It's insane.
in just the opposite of what he thinks he wants.
Exactly. Like it's the same thing with the COVID. It's like the same logic he had where he was like, we should, if we have less tests, we'll have less cases. That's not how this goes. That's not how this goes.
That was
right?
The craziest thing
It was insane. No, you're gonna end up
the craziest thing you ever said.
Yes, and again, like it still blows my mind that we reelected him. It's after the behavior he displayed. It's like this man inherited an economy from President Biden that was booming, that was strong. The absolute best thing he could have done was nothing when he took office, and he could have maybe cruised up to close to 50% approval rating if he just chilled, didn't go after migrants, didn't do these tariffs, didn't act like a lunatic. He would be in a better place politically. Instead, he's doing this, and you have this combination of the tariffs, the economy slowing, him making billions of dollars from the crypto grift. Like all of this is compounding on him. And again, the one thing that's not is the markets. And that was something I wanted to ask you about was when the markets are surging like this, basically propped up by these several tech companies and the AI part of the economy, which is the only place that in healthcare that's seeing real growth in the job market. What where does your Wall Street antenna say that these guys are assuming? Are they assuming that he's going to back off higher tariffs in the future?
So,
what is fueling this optimism?
So there are a few things, in my opinion. One is that, the way these averages are weighted, there are really only like 7 companies that are propping up the entire market.
Yes.
They call them the Magnificent 7. Mm-hmm. Amazon, Microsoft, those guys. There's another And we're in earnings season. Earnings in general have been good, but they're not reflective of what's to come. They're backward looking, right? So they're not, and many of these companies are warning that, hey, we did okay this time, but you take GM, for example. GM had a $3 billion profit, but it should have been 4 billion if not for tariffs. Okay. And so
Exactly.
we haven't even seen the full extent to which the tariffs are going to come into play. There's also another factor, and I'll post something about this. This is related to the big bill, whatever you want to call it. There are some changes that they made to the way cash flow is assigned on corporate balance sheets that is now starting to inflate these balance sheets, even though it's not something they can use for taxes, but it makes the stock look better than it would have otherwise.
Hmm.
And so a lot of that is coming into play, and and people are jumping on it. It raises the value of these companies. So all of those things together, while relevant, do not count in the future. And now there is a certain degree or a certain level, and these markets react on emotion, right? Not necessarily reality. Back in the day, I'm going to really date myself by saying this. When Alan Greenspan was the Fed chairman, he used the phrase irrational exuberance.
Yeah.
Okay. And to some extent, I think that's what we're seeing. They're hoping that it's just not going to be as bad as the numbers are telling us they are. They're
Yeah.
hoping that the Fed will just go ahead and lower interest rates, which they might do in September. It's not going to be, a point or anything like that. I think depending on the unemployment numbers that we see in September, they may lower interest rates 25 basis points just to be safe. But the worst thing that they could do is cut rates a half a point and a month later have to raise them a point because inflation is running away.
Exactly. And that's the thing where it's like, if Trump really wants to lower interest rates, why the
The
tariffs are the
only
exact.
reason they're going to
Yeah,
lower
yeah,
interest rates
yeah.
is if the next unemployment report shows further deterioration in jobs, which means the economy is slowing more.
But the best case, the thing providing the best case against lowering the rates is the inflation being caused by the tariffs. So it's like
Exactly.
it's all backfiring.
Yeah.
And you're right. And also, people liking rereading your comments, bringing them in there. If you have any questions, throw some questions in here for us. Marlon here's got decades in finance. We're here.
Man,
We're
I'm
here.
not that old.
We're
Stop.
here. He's got
No, but really though,
wisdom. He's got wisdom. And
seems to
also hit the
me.
like button and subscribe to us, because you just hit the subscribe button right at the top. You hit us, you get our newsletter for free, or if you're willing to become a paid subscriber, that would be fantastic as well. But yes, this is all culminating here, and you're right. These earnings are backwards looking. The sentiment we're seeing is yet to catch up, because with the tariffs we're going to see a downward stream effect, right? Well, as these prices rise, we're going to see consumer spending reduce, consumer sentiment continuously reduce. We're going to see then, then that has an upstream effect. Now companies have less funds to hire, and as we've already seen that, because companies are preemptively cutting back on hiring because they know intuitively what's coming. You can see it in their behavior, but they're fine with having these stocks increase for now, but it's going to come crumbling down. Like, there's going to be a crash when we have a few months from now. We see the inflation data continuing to escalate, where we see this situation worsening. And then if he gets the guy, it makes it even worse. If he gets someone like EJ Antony in the BLS, who was a Project 2025 contributor, literally was in the crowd on January 6th, you think that's going to do anything for trust in institutions and in our numbers here? It's not. So I just think that we're in a situation where it's like a bubble brewing here. It feels like there's something going on. There's something else happening. This surge in buy now, pay laters, where we're seeing a lot of these loans defaulting, or a lot of people not paying that.
Oh, okay.
Affirm and Klarna, and like there's
Oh,
like
right, right, right.
those companies where it's like that you really need a credit history in order to get loans, and it's like there's all, and then you have that plus inflation happening here, plus people losing jobs. I'm seeing a recipe for recession, and Trump is behaving in a way and adding to it. Literally a manufactured economic crisis he could be causing if he continues down this path.
So I don't always agree with Lawrence Summers, who used to be Treasury Secretary, back in the day, and he's um, was running Harvard for a minute, and he's a professor, smart guy.
Yeah.
Um, he actually said something, and he said it a couple of times. The term he used was I think the word is iatrogenic. It's like a word that sent me to the dictionary. I'd never
Yeah.
heard it, but what it means is when it's usually related to like medicine, like if you go into the hospital for a broken leg, but you catch a virus in the hospital and it kills you, that kind of thing. and
Oh
and he
yeah.
related it to the Trump administration in the sense that when the government that is supposed to react to crisis is the cause of the crisis.
Yeah.
Okay. And so that's basically the scenario that he says we're in right now, where if not for these tariffs, we'd be fine.
Yeah.
Right. If not for Trump hammering the hell out of the Fed, we'd be fine.
Yeah,
All of
exactly.
these different mechanisms that we depend on, the person who's supposed to be, the shepherd overseeing and making sure all these things work is actually who's destroying it.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
And
And so when you think about it that way, it kind of makes sense. In order for his stuff to work, that's what he has to do.
yes, and the thing is, this comes down to everything else, right? He governs by emergency, not by popular mandate. He manufactures crises in order to accumulate more power, right? And
Mhm.
what we see is like that's what we see in DC. And I was talking about this in an appearance over the weekend where it's just, obviously crime rate hitting 30-year low. There's not a real crime crisis in DC at all, but he's going in there trying to honestly provoke an actual
Oh, yeah.
crisis, right?
Just before
So
I got on, I saw that a military vehicle just hit like a private citizen's vehicle, just near the White House somewhere.
yeah,
I
and
have no, the person was trapped in the vehicle. At least that was the breaking news. I don't know how it's turned out. But if he really, if he really were going after places where there's a lot of crime, I hate to say it, my home state of Arkansas might be his first stop. But
yes,
the governor there is a Republican. So
exactly. Like I've
Mississippi might be a good place.
13 of the Jackson, Mississippi. There's 13 of the 20 states, or sorry, 13 of the 20 cities with the highest homicide rates are in Republican states. He hasn't named one of them, and because again, he's trying to just manufacture crises. He's things that align with his political agenda. And right now, I think with the economy, people forget these tariffs are based on emergency powers, right? And the longer this goes on, the more he actually creates an economic emergency in which to legally justify the tariffs further. And again, like that's why I can't for the life of me understand his defenders who try to claim these tariffs have any basis or strategic value. If the goal was to actually isolate China, wouldn't you want to incentivize manufacturing and also in India and Taiwan, not also tariff India and Taiwan, and also damaging our own manufacturing? We see manufacturing was one of the sectors that lost the most jobs
Hmm.
in the last report. So like again, all of it's counterproductive. It's counterintuitive, but he's surrounded by sycophants. There's no Gary Cohn there. There's no Steve Mnuchin to tell him this is crazy, back off. Instead, he's got these losers around him, frankly, that are just telling him what he wants to hear. And it's really just been disturbing to see. Do you think that any logic will break through, or he's going to just take this thing down and then it's going to take him losing the midterms to snap out, or we just have to wait this out until 2026. Like, what do you think is going to be the thing that could snap him out of this course? Because right now he's doing every single thing imaginable to worsen the economy.
Dude, I'm just hoping we make it to the midterms. Honestly, I am just not of the um, opinion that we should depend on elections to fix this. I think that honestly, it's got to be folks in the street. If you look through history and you see these fascist, authoritarian regimes rise up, usually look at, what was it, 10, 15 years ago, Ukraine, they were kind of, you know, snuggled up to Russia until the folks just said, oh, hell no, we're done. And, you know, there's not going to be an uprising on this little island that I'm on, but I will tell you on No King's Day when the protests happened, I had never been in a protest before, right? My parents did, but I grew up in an era where we didn't really have to do much of that. But I went and did that and I was shocked, dude. Where I live, I am very unique. Not quite unicorn status, but you don't see a whole lot of folks that look like me. I was stunned at how many white people that I'm familiar with that I
Mm-hmm.
really didn't think were either paying that much attention, certainly didn't think they were Democrats. They were
Yeah.
out. They were
Yeah.
out, dude.
This is real.
Hundreds
This is
of
real.
people.
And I want to just on a hopeful note here, just on your point, you see KHR Senior here asking like what recommendations people can take. I personally do still believe that elections will be the thing that solves this because of what you're referring to. There's such a groundswell of people in the streets, and elections are run locally. If elections were run federally, I would be more concerned. But what we're seeing here is that there is a groundswell of people across the country. The No Kings protests, the protests over the weekend, his approval rating is at a 37%. I keep talking about this. I don't know why people don't make the
He's
connection.
never had really,
Yeah,
he's been
but
underwater.
like,
from day
yeah,
one, right?
but like, yeah, 37%. And now he is 3 points away from his all-time low of 34%. And you know when that 34% was? Days after January 6th. So he is at an absolute low. All of this is coming from weakness. Strong leaders that are confident don't need to occupy their capitals with military. They don't need to do all these weird deflections to try to cover up the Epstein file. He is scared. And also the gerrymandering push, it's all motivated from a deep fear of the midterms. If he's so afraid of the midterms, there's a reason for that, right? It's not because he thinks he's going to win just fine. He knows he's going to lose. I am nearly 100% confident that he's going to lose. Even if they gerrymander, Steve Bannon's podcast talking about 42 seats. They're not going to hit the 42 seat level. Also, we have Democratic governors pushing back. And I think we're going to see low propensity voters showing up in 2026, those who feel like they've been scorned. So my overall take on this is I really think he's cooked in the midterms. I think he knows he's cooked. I think he knows he's about to be a lame duck president, and he's freaking out right now because this is what he does when he's cornered. So I personally am I'm optimistic, frankly, and I think he's done so much to sabotage himself. And you know me, I've been writing about Project 2025. I see some people in the comments since 2023. So I'm someone who's not naive to the authoritarian machinations going on here, but they botched a lot of that implementation because they
have real skilled people.
Yeah, they had Musk with the chainsaw. Like they didn't move intelligently, and they've turned the country against them. Authoritarians need a popular will at the beginning in order to do what they do. They don't build authoritarian nations with it starting from this low of unpopularity. I'm telling you, I think he's cooked.
Agree with that. I will agree with that. I do think, and I guess, my comment is sort of based on what you mentioned, what's going on in Texas and these other places. If Democrats get off their ass and respond, then we've got a fighting chance. I know Newsom is doing, some stuff in California, hopefully, but it's got, he's doing it the right way.
Yeah.
By taking it to the vote, right?
Yeah.
I would like to see some other states do similar things, right?
New York has spoken out. We're seeing Jersey saying so, but they'd have to change their constitutions.
Yeah, I'm impressed with Kathy Hochul, and I haven't been a fan of Kathy Hochul. But yeah, she's like, coming back at these folks with
Yeah.
some fire.
And then that's the thing that again, the way our system is created, it's not centralized government, right? Like there's
Right.
the states' rights thing that used to be the conservatives' bread and butter is now one of the
That
is
movie,
now
isn't it?
yeah, it totally went away. But it's now one of the fundamental things that protects us from this authoritarianism, right? We have I live in New York, where I feel safe here because I know we have a governor who's gonna if he tried to come in, they would say hell no with the National Guard, right? We have Gavin Newsom who's rejected the National Guard in L.A., right? We have these people who are standing up, but like again, look at what he did in D.C. If every state, if the law we weren't set up the way we were, he'd be able to legally do that in every state, but he can't. So like he still knows there's legal guardrails here. And that's why like again, I always try to push the optimism because he wants us to feel that he has more power than he actually has yet. He does not have absolute power yet. He is a fickle, weak, vulnerable man who is terrified of becoming a lame duck president and is acting erratically right now. That's my take on his behavior. As I documented every day in the first
Yeah.
term. Whenever he's most fearful,
When he gets cornered,
he's behaving like that
yep,
right now
lashes out.
because either he knows something else is coming. Because another quick point, before we found out he extorted Zelensky in 2019, there was that 1 month in August where he started acting crazy, and no one knew what was going on. Everyone was like, "Why is he acting so crazy?" Turns out he had extorted Zelensky in July, knew that a whistleblower that was on the move, and knew the public was going to find out about it. So that's why he was acting crazy. Right now, I think personally, it's the approval rating stuff and all that other stuff. But what's in those FC files, man? What is it that's about to come out that has him acting so crazy? And I think people need to like read between the lines on his behavior and just see that this man is weak and fickle and not in any way an authoritarian yet. He wants to be, but I really think we can hold the line on it. But again, maybe I'm overly optimistic.
No,
But
but you know what? Both things can be true,
yeah,
you know? And with this guy, he loves him some authoritarians. He just fawns over these people because he
hmm
wants to be in that club so bad, right? And he tried to be in the Democratic club in the big time real estate club. Nobody wanted him. And so he's got that in the back of his mind. He just has that need to be accepted, right?
yes,
And you would think being president of the United States would do it, but there's that. Now, something you said earlier, though, when we talk about him not having talent around, part of what makes authoritarianism work is having people who are not high on the skill category, but loyal.
yeah,
And so this morning, after I saw the Lisa Cook news, I was like, okay, that means he's trying to he already has one seat he can fill. He can appoint someone from that's already on the board of governors, right? And
yeah,
whenever Powell steps aside or whatever, without having to go through the Senate. So if he gets another seat that he can fill, who would he put in that seat? And so I'm just kind of digging around. So have you ever heard of this guy named James Fishback?
I don't think so.
I've never heard of him either because he's nobody.
But they're considering
But
him.
now they're floating it like this guy might end up being a Fed governor. He's a he dropped out of Georgetown, I think. No
Of
shade on
course.
dropouts. I dropped out. Sad to say. Think how bad I'd be, man, if I had a PhD, huh? But seriously, this guy dropped out to start his own hedge fund. He doesn't really have any of the credentials. I have credentials, and he never passed any securities exam, and he went to work for Greenlight Capital as a
Mm.
that's Einhorn billionaire who typically I think supports Democrats, and he ends up either getting fired or quit. The guy's only 30, and people are floating his name as a potential Fed governor. Why? Because the fund he started is anti DEI,
Of course.
and
Yeah.
he kicked it off at Mar-a-Lago.
Of course.
I don't
And
know how much money he's got under management, but he's been going around saying that his, as far as his credentials go, that he was like the head of macro at Greenlight. And Greenlight's like, you need to stop saying that because we don't even have that
yeah,
position.
yeah. I mean,
So
again,
these are
like,
the kind of people that we're talking about.
and that's the concern, right? It's like,
Let me just say that Lisa Cook, this I'm trying. She came out of an HBCU, if I'm not mistaken. Head of economics or something. Just really strong
credential.
credentials, and it just really grates on me when you see this. And we saw it with Obama, where a black person's got to have like to the nth power credentials, and a guy like Trump, whatever. You know,
Yeah, no, exactly. And again,
this really gets me, man.
yeah,
I try to
it's
not let
insane.
it bother me, but damn.
It's insane because that's the thing. The a part of engendering and garnering the loyalty is putting people in place that would never otherwise qualify for that role. Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, Janine Pirro, like all of these people. I guess Janine Pirro had a legal background, but she's crazy. But like again, these people who just should not be in their positions. Kash Patel, these are people who would never in their wildest dreams be here. So therefore, that further
Mhm.
incentivizes the loyalty. Also, these are what ideologues. These are people who would never otherwise pass muster. But again, like you said, that's also the pitfall where for authoritarians who they need loyalty around them, but they also need competence. And if your first priority is loyalty and competence is down here, and you're surrounded by yes men, and the leader at the top does not have the self awareness or intelligence to make the right decisions, you get cooked. You end up making dumb decision after dumb decision because you're surrounded by yes men. You're surrounded by people who are telling you you're a genius and everything they're telling you your tariffs aren't psychotic. They're telling you that they're telling you what you want to hear. And he, who has really lost his mind, even more so since January 6th, since he was shot, he convinces himself of the lies now. So he tells himself, "Oh, the numbers are cooked," and he literally will convince and gaslight himself in the process. And then he has people around him that are telling him what to hear. So that's another reason why. Where at the same time, it's horrifying that he has these loyalists around him. It's also encouraging that he has idiots around him, and he has incompetent people who can't do their jobs and don't know how these systems really work. And again, with the Fed, unfortunately, this would be something where if he is able to get another appointment, they will overrule Powell and try to force the lowering of the rates because they tried to come for Powell because they couldn't cook up anything else for the renovations. It's absurd, man. It's absurd.
One thing that Powell, the wild card with him is while he is, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, when his term as chairman expires, he doesn't have to leave. He can actually go to the board and stay there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, that's something that they don't know really what to do with. So it's almost like this thing with Lisa Cook. He's trying to get like an insurance seat, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's a mess, man.
It's truly a mess. It's truly a mess. And
One thing I want to just touch on, and it's kind of changing directions a little bit. But when we talk about this whole phenomenon of what's going on right now, and I look at these companies that are just capitulating,
Mhm.
um, and I saw this morning that Target they announced a new CEO, and it just it's earnings season. Their numbers came out, and I just I actually have written 90% of a little short note, just the progression of Target, it,
Mhm.
which people don't know this. Target is one of the most data driven companies on the planet. You got Amazon, of course, that hands down, but they're on the internet. They kind of exist in the ether. They own Whole Foods and they have
Yeah.
some physical locations. And then you got Walmart, which I think has like the largest private cloud presence in the world. You know, just terabytes of, stuff that they analyze. But Target is probably the best at marketing strategy using data. So they know their customers. They were on the LGBTQ tip way
Yeah,
before anybody else,
exactly.
right? In terms of knowing that was their natural customer. They know that 70% of their customers are women. So why in the world, when red hat wearing dudes started complaining about LGBTQ clothes, would they pay them any attention? These are not their customers. Target knows how much you shoplift from them. What they do, they have like all kind of predictive analytics.
Mm,
They have all your information. They have face recognition technology, which I did not know till I started looking.
mm.
So if you shoplift a CD from them and get away with it, it's because they let you.
Yeah,
So if you come back and keep stealing from them, all of a sudden you're going to get a federal lawsuit. They will wait until until it reaches federal crime and then they come after you. And they got all the data. So all that to say, when Target committed to $2 billion worth of business with black owned companies, they knew they knew they could do that. It just baffles me why they would drop DEI, because look at what it has cost them.
yep,
That stock was trading in February when the boycott went in to effect. That stock was trading at $135 a share, something like that. It's trading like $95 now.
yeah,
I mean, that is to me a cautionary tale in how this shit does not work
a thousand
and
percent.
why you should not pay any attention to Trump.
Yeah, 1,000%. And again, like these people operate out of fear. They preemptively capitulated when they didn't need to. They went and they decided to fall for this nonsense. And again, they shouldn't have. The culture was still the right thought they want a
Just
cultural mandate.
just based on the numbers,
Yeah, yeah, just based
based
on the
on the
number. Yeah,
data,
based on
they
the
could
data.
look at
Yeah.
they reacted. I don't know. I mean, you sometimes when you got a bunch of men, especially white men, that was what they identified with, maybe psychologically.
Well,
I don't know.
I think
But
what
it
what happened
wasn't
was
numbers.
people thought they thought Trump and the right won a cultural mandate in the election when he actually won an economic one. They thought that basically when Trump won, that meant wokeness was dead or whatever. You know, they're how they refer to it. But that wasn't the case.
No.
Americans were not paying attention,
No,
and
the
it was all it
economy
was an
was really
inflation.
bad for Democrats.
Yeah, yeah, and it
And
was
the
yeah.
the economic, even though inflation, you can tell somebody, hey, inflation dropped 5%. But if I'm going like Eddie Murphy says, I'm trying to buy the GI Joe with the kung fu grip and
No,
can't
exactly.
afford
Yeah.
it, then
No,
you know,
exactly. Yeah, yeah,
don't
yeah.
tell me what the BLS said.
And on that point, to wrap up, I think the the point right there at the end about how the economy was the thing that people felt, regardless of the numbers last time, right? This time they can't spin that again, right? The people are feeling the economy. They're going to feel what the impact of Trump's economy, and they're going to show up at the polls, regardless of Trump's rhetoric. And again, that's what explained Target's maneuvering. They made a dumb calculation and thought that everyone, for some reason, thought the election was a referendum on wokeness when it was a referendum
Mhm.
on inflation and the economy. That's going to be the same thing here. It's the economy, stupid every time. And right now, the economy is slowing. People can feel it. Inflation is rising. And in 2026, you go ahead and you pass a bill that literally takes resources from the poor and gives it to the wealthy in the big, beautiful bill, or I call it the reverse Robin Hood bill. That's going to have the impact that pushes people away. So I think while this really it's going to harm the economy in the short term, I think in the long term it's one of the things that's going to undercut Trump's movement.
I think you're right, and it was the economy and it was immigration too. And you
Yeah,
think
yeah.
about this, I think he won the Latino vote on that. And I was just looking at some numbers the other day, and boy, they're running away from him.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't believe, and it's because they really believed that, oh, he's gonna get all the bad Latinos out of here. Not not the not the guy that's got the little, the food truck down the street.
Yeah.
the guy that's delivering, groceries. So I
People,
don't know why they believed him, but people do. I think there was a certain number of people that were young enough that they did not experience the first Trump. So,
yeah.
sometimes folks got to touch the hot stove.
And they've touched it here. And honestly, um, I think people have woken up, and I think they'll continue to wake up. He overreached on immigration. He overreached in the economy. He's overreaching in authoritarian power grabs here. He's pushing people away. So I'm hopeful on that front. Marlon, thank you for joining me. Everyone here, if you're still watching, thank you so much. We've loved your comments as they came in. You're smashing that like button. We appreciate that. Also, hit the subscribe button at the very top. I know you're showing your love here with the comments and the presents, but right here you can subscribe to both of us, and if you can, and if you're able, become a paid subscriber as well. We appreciate you, and Marlon, thank you for joining, man.
Hey, man, thanks for having me. Let's do it again soon.
Definitely, brother. All right. Take it easy, and thank you all for being here.
Take care.